Good day, and guten Tag. This is another episode of Brothers Crossing. I hope you are having a lovely day because we're going to make it a great day. So if you're just hanging around, standing around, grab a chair, pull up because it's going to be a great day. Welcome again to Brothers Crossing. I am Roro. Here with my bro Nando. What's up, Nando?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How's everything going?
Good. We're down a man today. We're down our
What
brother
happened?
Cub today. He's on IL. He's
Oh,
under the
man.
weather. Yeah, it's that time of year, man. So everybody make sure practice good hygiene, wash your hands, stuff going around again. But he's on IL. Wish him luck. Yeah, I hope he watches this show. I'm sure we'll get a lot of feedback from him.
Yeah,
No
we
doubt,
should.
right?
Yeah, we should.
So yeah. So today we're gonna have a good day. It's a special day. We're gonna be talking about dementia, but not only that, it's a big day because it's Nando's birthday. Hey, what's up?
Yes, that's
It's his
why you have.
birthday.
I would just like to let people know that once you reach the AARP age, you don't celebrate the whole week. You got one good night of a good cigar, good liquor, and then after that, you back to normal. So we got one good night
Well, I
tonight.
don't know about that. I still got Roro week. I still got Roro week up in there.
All right, I'll let you handle it. Mr. Jackson is only gonna keep it to one night.
So again, today we're gonna have a good show. Besides celebrating Nando's birthday, we're talking about dementia. It's a heavy subject, but a really appropriate and important subject. So we'll talk about that. But we'll start off as we usually do. We'll talk about today's tidings, and I'll bring you today's tidings. You know, the birthday boy needs to rest his voice because he got a lot of subject matter expert coming up. So in honor of Cub not being here, but he would probably lead off with this. Tommy Fleetwood finally won a PGA tournament. After
Wow.
164 events, he won the one event that meant the most. He won the PGA Tour Championship and the FedEx Cup, which means that's $10 million for your very first win.
Okay, hold on. You have to talk to us people who don't follow golf since Tiger Woods fell off. So explain to us if you know where Fleetwood from and why is the PGA now paying $10 million when they used to only pay $2 million for winners? If you got the answer. For us people
I
that don't know
don't have
golf.
the answer. I still don't know how they're making all this money. Where does all this money come from? Like $4 million for a win, $10 million. I have no idea. See, when we were growing up, we should have picked up those old rusty clubs
Yeah, we
and
should
hit
have.
them.
Start golfing.
Yeah, no doubt. The other tiding I have today, and I saw this, and it's actually been going viral, but it's from about 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you remember the musician Dave Koz.
Yeah,
Dave
Dave Koz,
Koz
the
is
jazz artist. Yep.
jazz artist, right? Saxophonist, and so I think in around August 11th, he was on his way to do a show from his tour from St. Louis. He's flying from St. Louis to Seattle, but they kept having delays. They had to land because the crew timed out and everything. So the flight attendants knew that he brought his saxophone on the plane, and they brought it out and they busted out and played the sax while everybody was on on the tarmac. I thought that was pretty special. They were playing Stevie Wonder. You ain't done nothing yet. That was pretty. I'm like, I want a flight like that.
And I want to be on that one. Dave does this thing. If you ever picked up any Dave Koz CDs or when he's in concert, you definitely have to go. Amazing dude.
Yeah,
Amazing dude.
yeah. He's been around a while. And for people who don't know, he's a jazz musician, saxophonist, and he played for Richard Marx band. Um he did his own work, of course, and plus he was on the Arsenio Hall show. He was is part of that band. Shout out to Dave Koz. Make sure you get on my flight next time.
Hold on. I got some bigger news than the two you just brought up. We need to have like that Home Depot. Woo, 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 woo. Exciting news, breaking news. If any of you old heads can go to your Amazon Music account and put in this four-letter word, Sade. It's called Sade, and she's
No,
coming
no,
back.
no, no, no.
Now, people are going to laugh and be like, what are these crazy fools talking about? When you listen to a woman who is sultry, who is, I forgot where she's from overseas, but she's sultry with her music, and she comes out with an album every 10 years. So when you go to Apple Music, just call up Sade and just listen to a couple songs, and you'll understand why this world tour she's about to get started in 2026 is exciting.
You already know. I'm already there. Sade, send me some tickets, please. The brothers some tickets. For sure. All right. So we are going to get our show started. Exciting topics for me. But so we're going to talk about dementia. Now, this is very, very important to Nando and I because my mom has dementia, has been suffering from it for about 10 years, and you know she's in declining mode, and Nando's mom is going through similar things. Nando, why don't you tell us kind of the story about your mom and how you kind of knew that she had dementia and how that.
Well, it's not the fact that I knew. I really didn't know. So what happens to a lot of people who don't live in the same city or the same state as their parents, they need their uncles, their aunties, their cousins, their friends to watch over their parents. And all of a sudden, probably like 5 years ago, I started to get phone calls. Phone calls were like, hey, Fernando, how you been? What's going on? And then all of a sudden, something's not right. Next time you come back, you need to check. So instead of visiting once a year, now it's twice a year. Now it's once a quarter. Now it's every once a month, just visiting and seeing things. I really wasn't seeing anything. And then somebody called me one day and said, don't tell her you're coming home and you'll see what's really going on. That's the look I had.
Mm,
And I was like, all right. Call mom, don't say nothing, pull up. Mom, want to take you out to lunch, come to the house. And what I saw were just dishes in the dishwasher wasn't washed, clothes in bag that wasn't washed. And you're thinking, okay,
mm,
she's single. She should be able to do that. But then don't tell me that you washed the clothes. That's where the disconnect is, because some people may say, hey, she's single. She can do what she wants if she don't want to do the wash. But what she would do is she would clean the house, clean everything when she knew I was coming home. Clean
mm,
all the refrigerator, go in the refrigerator. There'll be meals there for like 2, 3 weeks, and I would get meals. And so it started to click, knew something was going to happen. Then all of a sudden, Christmas Eve, I'm chilling in California, relaxing. Then all of a sudden, at 10:30 at night, I get a phone call. So everybody's like, okay, what's 10:30 at night in California? That's 12:30 in the Midwest. I get a phone call from the police telling me
oh,
that my mother was in a car accident. Now, hold on. She was in a car accident and she was sitting there, and she doesn't know or remember how long she was sitting there in the snow, in the cold weather, driving home to her place that she's always known before. It's just a straight road, then it goes around a curve. Well, she went straight, all
mm,
four tires flattened. So the police gave her a ride home, and they saying she can't drive anymore. I was like, hey, can she drive? He's like, nope. I'm going to tell them to run a test. Educating you people out there, when your parents have to do a test for the DMV, they don't go to the actual DMV. You go to your doctor sets it up. It's computer simulated to test their peripheral vision, to test
right.
their reaction.
Yeah. Wow.
So when she had to do that, so that was December. Everything started going downhill because, of course, she failed the test. Then all of a sudden, we had to pull her driver's, sell her car, pull her driver's license, and then all of a sudden, the doctor was like, "Well, let's run a dementia test." And they test them with their skills of asking them, what did you eat today? What was 2 plus 2? What did you have yesterday? What did you have all week? Because when you're looking at that, they don't have a good short-term memory, but they have a good long-term memory.
Long
So the
term.
long-term memory, they can remember forever, but the short-term, they can't. So as
Yeah.
she failed that test, they were like, she can't live by herself.
Yeah.
Now, what I think people should comprehend by this is all a mental game. If you think about your parents, Your mother is your superwoman, superwoman. Your father is your superman. And you're sitting here looking at them, and before your eyes, they are turning into somebody else.
Something
And
different, yeah.
because there's no information out there, you don't
Yeah.
understand, bro.
Yeah, and I believe that's probably pretty difficult when you, like you say, you didn't live in the same town, and you kinda make that surprise visit, and then you start to see things change. That was kinda similar with my mom, and the way it went down for me is like, we would occasionally go visit my mom, and my mom was, like a teacher, businesswoman, but she liked to teach young people how to read, and one thing she used to do with us was do state capitals, and we had to test and know every state capital in the country. So we went back and we were playing a game, and I'm like, "Hey, this is up your alley, mom. This is this question. What's the capital of Florida?" And she had no response. So then I'd start talking to her later. I'm like, wow, that's kind of weird. And but she was kind of hiding something from me. She was more like, well, I love you and I always love you, that kind of thing. And I'm like, okay, yeah, we over here on the party playing games. And then to come to find out, probably a year or two later, that she had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's,
Mhm.
dementia, and it's tough. Like I said, it's tough when you move when you're not there, and they don't share everything, and everybody don't want to share anything. Like I'm sure your mom didn't want to share that she was slipping a little bit, but yeah. So that's it's a tough experience, and it's tough for everybody to go through. I think it's tough for you as a son, tough for our friends, and even their siblings, brothers and sisters, to go through. But you found something that you thought was pretty important, pretty not taken care of or addressed. And that's like the children, like the grandchildren. So you wrote a book. Tell us about your book. Tell us about your book.
How it came about, if everybody was listening before, it was simple about how this was coming down. It was affecting me mentally as a son, as an individual, trying to make sure that everything was working well. I started talking to a couple kids that knew her and asked them if they wanted to come and visit. And, I can see in their facial expression they were hesitant because they didn't know what to say. Then all of a sudden, when they're like, I don't know what to say to my child, I started thinking, if I'm having troubles dealing with this, how does a kid understand what's going on with their grandfather, with their grandmother? So all of a sudden, I had some free time, started putting words on a piece of paper of what would a kid have to know about this. That's very simple. And a couple months later, it came up to something of what you just saw. The first book, which is Benjamin's Special Memories.
Right. Well, that's interesting because I've known you for a long time, and it's weird to see you as an author, like an author of a book. But it's it is a very relevant topic, and I think I think you hit something there. We'll give people the chance to order it later. So when you wrote the book, and I think the character Benjamin,
Mhm.
you made him more of a grandfather and grandson relationship.
Yes.
Tell me why you chose the grandfather and grandson relationship.
It is going to, one, I think I probably changed it because it was affecting me so much. So doing the son and the grandmother, it would just be up in my head and I don't think I can get those words out or that information. So I tried to switch it up. I also, which we'll probably get into later, is I looked at the aspect of there are different age groups for this. So I created this book. Benjamin is 5 through 8. There's another one out there, The Enchanted Journey with Grandpa, 9 through 12. I also have coming soon a 12 through 15, a 15 through 18, and one for adults. Because let me throw some facts at you for you to get a good understanding of
Okay.
this. They were saying 1 out of 9 people, 65 and older, has some form of dementia. So we're looking at around 11%. And you're like, oh, Fernando, that number's not that big. Okay, let me put it to you in perspective of 7.2 million. In the United States, 7.2 million people have dementia that a lot of us aren't aware. And by 2050, it's going to jump to 13 million. So let's just let that sink in. Of people who have dementia, 7.2, and it's going to jump to 13 million. and nobody's talking about it. Nobody's having a
Yeah.
conversation about it.
I think it's really important that we do have a conversation about it because I was thinking about today. I'm like, there's so many levels to this thing. You can have how much it costs to take care of dementia folks, how it impacts the family, how it impacts older differently than it does, say, someone of Benjamin's age. Benjamin seemed he's probably just confused, like what the heck's going on, right? Maybe in older generations, probably not a older children are probably like, I'm embarrassed. I don't why is this happening? So you said you had you have another book? Is that
Yes,
what
I
I
have another
heard?
book on the website, which is called The Enchanted Journey of Remembering with Grandpa. That is with a young lady who's probably 10 years old and her younger brother dealing with their grandfather. So I did both books dealing with a grandfather, and then the next two books are going to be dealing with a grandmother.
Wow. Oh, you got a whole series coming.
And to answer your other question, yeah, if anybody knows Nando, they would be very surprised too. Like, how could he think of something like this? And what I would say to that is when you get put in a situation that is challenging to you, certain things you've always had in yourself will start to come out. And I think just thinking in this therapeutically, trying to get it on paper, that's the reason why. And yes, everybody is still shocked.
Well, I'm shocked, but I got your book. It's sitting up in my bookshelf, and it's a good read. And I hope everybody goes out and read it. Some. I think if we can touch a little bit on the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia, because we often hear those terms blended together. And so, from in your creative process writing the book, what kind of things did you learn about?
That is something that if people want to figure out, they'll be able to do in their investigative work. So anything that I'm saying right here is coming from my point of view. Never graduated school as a psychiatrist or anything like that. But when I did my research, dementia is the umbrella term. So dementia is the
Yes.
umbrella term, and that's where they say a group of memory loss, confusion, difficulty with daily life. So most people say that happens to me right now, and I'm in my 30s. No, 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 no. What it consistently is, not remembering what today's date is, forgetting where did I put the car keys, what did I wear yesterday, the memory loss of what happened last week, what happened this week, the confusion of getting two different conversation mixed up as one. So dementia is the umbrella, and Alzheimer's is the most common cause, so it's beneath dementia. So Alzheimer's is probably 60 or 80% of all the cases of dementia. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I don't, and I'm gonna have to investigate it. But like you said, 60% of the cases are Alzheimer that end up in dementia, and then there's things like vascular, and I think that's more.
Those are smaller ones. Those are
Uh,
smaller ones that are under Vanessa. There's vascular, there's lewd, there's front temple, but right now those are small because a lot of people aren't talking about it. When you're looking at a country of 300 million and you're saying, "Hey, only 7.2 has it," it's not really a forefront conversation, but now it is for our age group because we're looking at our parents and now we're seeing some signs because they may joke around and say, "Oh, well, I forgot my keys." But now, because we're having the conversation, you're going to look at it differently. And then you can go tell her doctor or their doctor, "Hey, just run a test. Tell me what you think."
right.
Because up to this
Right.
point, here's another thing I'll let you guys know. My mother's a teacher, 42 years, smart as a whippersnapper. So when I finally called the doctor and said, she had an automobile accident, I need you guys to run a test, they told me, guess what? Every year she has passed the test 100%.
Really?
I said, "You serious?" She goes, "Yep, smart as a whippersnapper." I said, "Okay, let's take 20 minutes." So in 20 minutes, I told the nurse everything that people had emailed me, everything that people had called me, everything what the police officer said, sent her the report, sent her everything, and said, "Now I want you to rerun the test." And you know what she told me?
It's that.
Unless somebody tells us to look for it, we would never run that test.
Hmm. That's wild. That's wild.
So because I pushed when I given her all this information, now they went to the doctor and the doctor's like, okay, we're not going to just run the test that she's always been passing. We're going to run this other test to see what's going on. But me had to push that envelope to happen. And they said,
Yeah.
if you're not fighting for your parents, nobody will.
Yeah. And that's an interesting, like I said, I keep bringing it back to my experience and kind of learning, kind of surprisingly, that my mom had been diagnosed with a form of dementia. And then to see how she's progressed. Now, I've had the pleasure of meeting your mom, or talking to your mom in the last couple of years, and your mom's, obviously, she's been diagnosed, but she's smart, and my mom is on a different plane, and so it's hard for me to be like, well, give her a test. We kind of know where it is, and the hard part is to how to. That's is where I'm like you. What you were touching on, how do you explain it to the different levels of family? Because my mom was a big executive at J.C. Penney's, and now she's, in a memory ward. And there's so many factors. I mean, you talk about things such as the cost of memory care. That's like average $6,500 just to be in memory care when someone needs it. You have all these other things, but you have to break it down. And I'm glad you're breaking it down for children, but I think there's some opportunity for you to talk more about the things adults have to do and the things they have to digest, the things that spouses have to do, the things financially you have to do. So I hope to hear more about that.
You had brought up a couple different things that I will be able to touch on in the adult version. I'm not a psychiatrist, but the thing is going through this, having conversations with family members, it's the mental aspect of trying to handle this. When you get your first job, when you get your first car, or when you get in your first car accident, if you did, or when something major happens to you and you're spinning out of control, you're trying to figure it out. And family members, that is the toughest with anything else, because every family member has their own thought process on how we should take care of mom or how we should take care of dad. They may not be in
Yes.
the forefront of the financial aspect, but what they think is it. So when I talk about it in the adult version book is you're going to have, once you figure out that mom and dad are going down this way, you as cousins, siblings, brothers, and sisters are going to have a conversation, is going to have to sit down
Yes.
and have multiple conversations because some people may be closer to the parent than the other one is, and that may take it to heart, which takes it a little time for them to digest it. But you have to sit down
Yeah.
and have
Yeah.
multiple conversations, but you're still might not reach the same goal. But as you said, with
Yeah.
family members, totally different story. You guys
It's
might
tough.
not be on the same
It's tough.
page.
But yeah, but with Benjamin, if you're going to say, "Hey, read this book," what would you want for a person to get out of the Benjamin?
The ease of the book to explain to a child that there's nothing wrong with grandfather or grandmother. There's nothing wrong with mom or
Right.
dad. What you're seeing is they still have love for you. They still have their feelings. They just can't remember. So what can you do to help grandma or grandpa remember? So that's what Benjamin does is, mom, I'm sad. Don't be sad. Try to find different avenues to help so that grandpa or grandmother can tell you stories because they'll remember everything in the past from the 30s of what they ate to the 40s to the 50s. And if you're bringing up pictures or if you're bringing up stuff, then you're keeping them engaged to tell stories. So that's what I think people should get out of Benjamin is letting a kid know it's not the end of the world. It's just they're
Right.
transitioning and you can get something out of it by what? By helping them and they're educating you. You're developing that relationship with them because you're hearing those stories. So it's really about the
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah. So before we wrap up here, you just had a birthday, right? It's your
Yeah.
birthday, and we're all getting older, and we all suffer from these lethological and lethonomia, forgetting words, forgetting names. What would we do as advice? Would you see for ourselves. We check on each other, because we all like if I forget a word or I forget a name, am I
Yeah.
do I need to go get a
No,
test?
no, you don't need to go get it. You don't need to go get a test because when we're talking about the memory loss, we're talking literally, what did you do yesterday? What did you do day before yesterday? What did you do the day before that? What did you eat this morning? What did you do? I mean, it really gets bad. And with some of the research that, again, paraphrasing, I'm not an expert, not a psychiatrist. So research whatever I tell you. So what I discovered is us continuously challenging our mind by doing something different. If you're a reader,
Yeah.
continue reading a book. Start learning a foreign language. If you have no clue, don't worry about it because you're just continuously training the mind, to do something different. If you drive the same way to work 5 days a week, 52 weeks out of the year, you need to drive a separate way. You need to switch it
Okay.
up to make sure that
You're challenging your
you're
mind. Yeah.
challenging your
Yeah.
mind. Well, let me throw it back
Yeah.
at you. Since you are involved with it, outside of the shock when you heard that I wrote the book, after that initial shock, when you actually read the book, what was the first thing that came to your mind when you were done?
I thought it was like again, I said it focused on an area that it probably wasn't thinking. I was probably being, me centric at that time. Like, how are my feelings? How's my feelings relate to it? But I thought it was good understanding of, hey, things are changing, but you can still help maintain the memories for your grandpa and the cohesiveness of family, the things that people have to do in order to make this thing work when someone gets a diagnosis like that. You actually have to be a little more creative. You have to be more patient and you have to really focus on the person and not the disease. And I think that's kind of
We can continue on this subject where I can bring up the financial aspect, I can bring up the race aspect, I can bring the demographics of the males and women's that I discovered at that age group from 65 and older, what we're looking at. And then I can also suggest to people an idea of where to reach out.
we will put out a part two. I think this is a very good subject, and I hope that everyone tells their friends. Where can we find your book so that people can purchase it? I think
Yeah,
it's a
if they
valid purchase.
go to my bookstore, Jackson Book dash
Okay. So you said
Jackson
Jackson.
dash bookstore.
So there it is. If you see it in the upper left hand corner, jacksonbookstore.com. This is what the page looks like. Go out and get the book. It's a good read.
Here's
It's a
another
good
thing that
start.
here's another sorry to cut you off. Here's another thing that we add. It gives you the home, it gives you the shop, and it tells you all the multiple awards that both of these children's books have won in different book festivals. So it isn't just, oh my God, it's a great book. No, it's been winning awards that people have acknowledged it. And the last section header is in Spanish. So the description, finding the books in Spanish, and the reason I did that is because I'm in a neighborhood where Spanish people were like, I'd love this book, but I would love to hand it to my friends who speak Spanish. So that's why I
Well,
developed a Spanish
there you
version of
go.
it, and I have a header for it that you can read it in Spanish, order it in Spanish. So I'm trying to make sure that I can touch as many people as I can.
And that's a noble effort. And I commend you on that. Congratulations on your book, all your awards. I think it's a great thing. So we're gonna wrap it up today. I think it's again, look for part two. I know there's people who are heavily involved with, you know, parents that have dementia or relatives that have dementia. Stay tuned, talk to us, post in our comments, like, subscribe. We want to try to do a deeper dive on part two for an adult standpoint. And we want to make sure Cov gets better and he can come in and chime in with his perspective. We want to say hi to Cov's aunt, who's in New Zealand. Now she's making us international. So thank you for joining Brothers Crossing. And we're gonna see you later on the next episode. Tune in next week again. Likes. We're at DFN Inc. Look left, look right. Brothers Crossing. Night.